Hello and welcome back to another episode of Parts Talk. Today we have Administrator, Accountant and Warranty Officer Doris Ngyuen. Doris takes us behind the scenes away from the customary after-sale service. She explains her role in the dealership and ultimately her contribution to the customer experience. Please remember to like, share and download this podcast. You will find the full video of this interview on my YouTube channel Parts Manager Professional. If you like what you hear and would like to hear more, you can make a donation using the information in the description. So let's get right into it. Welcome to my program, Doris. And first of all, I'd like for you to introduce yourself. Tell us all about yourself and your experiences.
Sure. My name is Doris Ngyuen, and I've been working with, in the auto industry since I graduated university. I just kind of stumbled upon the auto industry, and I've been there ever since. It's been 7 years now. 7 years in the auto industry.
Okay. And in what capacity?
Let's see. I started in the service department. Yeah, I started in the service department doing warranty and BDC, so call center stuff, and then an opportunity kind of arose to go to accounting, which is where, and then so I went into there and just kind of learned as much as I could. And I'm still learning.
Yes, it's in Toyota philosophy, it's called continuous improvement, because you're never the same. Things are always evolving in the auto industry, and the way they do things, it evolves, and we have to innovate, as they say. But give us a little more of the background the work you did while in the service department.
I'm in the service department. I process a lot of the warranty claims.
Okay.
So it was, and then I kind of supported BDC with call centers cashing out people. So, you got face-to-face interaction, and then also phone interaction, but then also warranty was just processing paperwork that way. So it was similar to accounting in terms of figuring out what's over, under, and all that stuff.
Right.
And so it was mostly that when I was in the service department. But even then, I learned as much as I could. Mm-hmm. I guess I just naturally wanted to know more about it, because I didn't know anything about the auto industry when I started.
Yeah.
I did not have a car. I did not even know what warranty was or what pertained to what is warranty, under warranty and out of warranty and all that stuff. So it was just learning everything, and I'm just this is opportunity. Just learn everything. And the department, or the auto group that I was with, they had shadow days where you could go and shadow people in different departments. So that's what I did too. I'm just sign me up. So I sat with the parts department, I sat with the detail, went to see detail, went to see accounting too. This was before I went to accounting, and just kind of learned everything, because I didn't really know what it was all about. I didn't know how it was structured.
Yeah.
I do now, after 7 years, but that's how it started, and that's where we're at.
Okay. BDC, a lot of people would like to know, it stands for Business Development Center.
Yeah.
That right. So
yeah.
so that role would it's more like appointments, gathering appointments, calling persons, letting them know that their maintenance is due and all those stuff. Well, for now we have text messages and emails and reminders and scheduling an appointment. But at that point, do they still use that concept in calling people, or it's just they just allow the technology to take its course?
I think there's a lot. I think it also depends on the customer base.
Yeah.
So if they're more comfortable, I think it's better to have different modes of communication.
Okay.
And whatever's available, and then kind of go from there. So right now there is a lot of phone calls still, but there's a lot of online, speak to a person kind of thing, through the website. There's a lot of text messaging. There's a lot of that. So there's a lot of integration of new technology and new programs and new kind of procedures and stuff like that. So which is really good. I find it's really exciting. I like having different modes of communication with people, and so I think it's better to continue the relationship with customers, but then also to reach out to new customers too.
Yeah.
Right, the new kind of base of customers or potential customers, business. It's business, right? So they're trying to build business, but then also maintain business. So
Hmm.
no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But tell us more. During your tenure, 7 years. 7 years is quite a long time to be in the auto industry, believe it or not, because the
I've been
turnover,
told.
yeah, the turnover. You're now a veteran.
Am I? Like I
Yeah,
don't
at
feel like
some
it, but
dealerships, depending on how they're performing, the turnover is quite high. That is if they're operating without a strategic plan moving forward on all these things, and if they're sales centric, they only concentrate on selling cars, right, and not the overview of the business itself to get all departments synchronized as one and moving towards a particular goal. That seems to be the drawback to a lot of the dealerships, especially those that don't operate within like the top 10 or the top 20 of
right.
the number of
Yeah.
dealerships, who are operating within a specific geographical region. But how, during your tenure, how has operations changed during your time?
For me, I guess I mean from an accounting perspective, I would say like from accounting, there's not that much change because
Right.
there's not a lot of technology or new programs and everything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
like I think in terms of the auto, like the dealerships, it's become very like it's fast paced. Like the pace is becoming quicker and quicker. You have to adapt,
Yeah.
right? And so like implementing, being able to work from home, implementing like sharing like information between
Mm-hmm.
departments or like communicating between departments because now let's say like our call center reps aren't on site anymore, they're at home.
Yeah.
So now and they have to communicate with different departments and different people, so
Yeah.
like I think being able to do that and like communicate information, I guess, quicker than putting the customer on hold and walking over is like that's you can't do that anymure,
Right.
right? Or you
Right.
can like I mean even email now, sometimes email now you can't really depend on that all the time because it's not as fast as like having like a chat, having like an online kind of like chat group with
Yeah.
the coworkers and stuff. So I think that has been, I think, the most significant change is like the amount of time. So like I mean customers are like getting busier, we're getting busier. So I understand like the value of time has become like much more now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
And certainly COVID has forced a lot of us to innovate, especially from a business aspect. It has allowed persons to stay at home, work from home, and
Yeah.
then they have to integrate and innovate as they go along in order to
Yeah.
synchronize
I
everyone, as I mentioned before. So I think it's both good and bad. Bad in the concept that we can get sick, but maybe good,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, good in the
I
notion
think
that it has pulled people out of the box thinking, so to
mhm,
speak, right? For
yeah,
them
like
to, yeah, to be
I think
cohesive.
the audio industry, like COVID has really become a catalyst for a lot of those changes. Because like a
Right.
lot of other industries, they've had that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like infrastructure to work from home and like to kind of like collaborate like virtually like this, right? But I found maybe it's not all the dealerships are on board to some of the new stuff
Yeah.
or they're slow to change. And so
Yeah.
COVID has kind of like become a catalyst to kind of you have to adapt. You kind
Mm-hmm.
of have to adapt, or like we face people getting sick, people like things like that, or things kind of like breaking down. So you kind of
Yeah.
have to you have to learn.
Yeah. You have to,
Yeah.
because certain things, like I remember using VPN, right?
Mhm,
But this was back when I was a manager, but
mhm,
those opportunities were only available to persons at a particular level in the dealerships, right?
mhm.
So now, using VPN, working from home scenario has been
Yeah,
extended to the staff, to other staff members,
I
right?
think
But
so
the
too.
technology
Yeah.
has always been there. It's just that
It's
certain,
just
yes,
utilizing it.
yeah, they were utilizing it, and they didn't think
Mhm,
that it would have been helpful to a lot
mhm.
of people down the line. That's where I see how slow some of the dealerships are in terms of innovation, just
Yeah.
just innovating, just moving forward, just thinking outside the box, just doing a lot of things differently. Too many
Yeah,
people are
no,
just,
I
yeah, too many
I
people are
agree.
just
Mhm.
comfortable with where they are.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I think with the people that I've worked with, like you can tell, like there is like a sense of like they're comfortable, like there's something that they're comfortable with and
Yeah.
they use all the time or whatever. But then like I think it's just introducing new concepts or
Hmm.
like new methods, new programs. I mean, with accounting, there is not that much innovation in terms of like accounting. You're accounting for everything
Yeah.
anyway, right? Like it's either the dollars in, out, net, like that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So like I find accounting doesn't have that kind of like push for change all that much,
Right.
right? And I mean, I think like on a I guess operation level, like sales department and service and parts, like they have all of the newer programs. They're like implementing new things, implementing new procedures, like standard procedures and everything. But with accounting, you're just kind of like we work kind of in the past too. Like even now, just recently, like we're still working on the previous month, even though it is now July. We're still
Yeah.
working in
Yeah.
June.
Yeah. You have to
So
reconcile
we
and
tend
close
to,
off. Yeah.
yeah, so we tend to work in the past a lot. And it kind of, I to me, I think it kind of reflects how slow the accounting like programs and everything are to change,
Hmm.
right? Because we were just accounting for like numbers, dollars, units sold, and like all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like it it is difficult. Like what I see is like like the parts department will say this is supposed to be charged to this,
Yeah.
but they don't know where it is. And I'm just like, okay, but like how much is it to this?
Hmm.
Which so there's kind of like that thing where it's communicating between that stuff, because instead of back and forth being like, yes, but like what do you really mean? It's more trying to explain, like kind of like to kind of explain it to them so then they kind of understand from an accounting perspective, and then also like the
Hmm.
parts department or the sales department or
Yeah. Yeah.
like all
Yeah,
the
no,
other
it
departments.
it it
Yeah.
boils down to the individual. If they understand the how all departments intertwine with each other. Because from an accounting standpoint, you mentioned that you're working in the past to catch up at all times, right? But that's also a good thing because you that's where auditing comes in. So you will see if there's any
Yeah.
discrepancies that were done and if they were following the processes, which is also
Yeah.
important, right? Because other dealerships I've worked with, they've had someone in charge of compliance,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And compliance, yeah, the compliance officer will pick up everything. It's more like
Yeah,
an internal auditor, and they will pick up if anything is going on between the parts department and the sales department, if persons are undermining the warranty processes and all these things. So
yeah.
it is really an important aspect, right?
Yeah.
So even though you're working in the past, it is actually a good thing to catch up, to catch any discrepancies that has taken place, or to see,
Yeah.
or to track breadcrumbs. That's what I
Yeah,
call it.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
If there's
part
a
of it,
trend,
it
yeah,
is working in the past, but then it's also kind of like being able to like see the trends, right? And
yes,
to report to be like, okay, like we can kind of veer a little bit this way, veer a little bit that way to
yeah,
be like faster or more efficient or like better for the customer, like for the business and everything. But yeah, like a lot of it is like, oh wait, this is, and then like asking questions. I think accounting tends to ask a lot, the most questions. They're like, where is
yes,
it
yes.
supposed to
And yeah,
go?
and
And I'm like, but
service
who
departments,
said yes?
service department gets annoyed always.
Yeah, I look, as someone who started in service, I have seen it both ways.
Yeah,
And like, I mean, like, and like, I mean, I work with the sales department too, and everything. So I'm just like, I see it both ways. I can see why it's kind of annoying. That is like, there's a little frustrating sometimes when they're asking things about stuff that happened. Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I sent an email. Did I send an email? Like that kind of thing to explain. Because I'm like, for accounting, like we have vendors that we have to like pay bills to
yeah.
as
Hmm.
well, right? Like, but then we also have to work with the dealerships that like are actually face to face with some of these vendors, like
Yeah,
our tinting businesses and everything. And so it's a lot of like we will pay the bill, we just don't know what department is supposed to be expensed to.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
Right? So it's a
everything goes to a
juggle.
particular account. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a juggle because you don't also don't want to put it to the wrong account, and
hmm,
then you have to like make adjustments and stuff.
yeah,
Like it's better to kind of try to figure out the first time and put it in the right, like allocate it correctly the first time as opposed to later and then that kind of thing. But I
hmm,
I think I think like what it's easier to like maybe be on site and like be able to speak with like, the department heads, like department managers and like all that stuff to kind of like, so then we get answers at the time as opposed to when we see it at the end of the month,
Yeah.
right? And then like it's a lot of waiting game where you're just like, where did this come from? And then the department, like the department will be like, let me get back to you. And like to kind of like catch up where it is, and we're like, okay, so what department is it supposed to go to, who's using this like expense kind of thing.
Hmm.
So it's a lot of that. I think like if we're able to like communicate quicker, more efficiently, but then also support the departments to be like, if like if you want to like have like this new thing, like just kind of like write it down, explain it, so then accounting knows where it's supposed to go. So
Go. Yeah.
accounting can like allocate it correctly instead of having to always kind of like, where did this come from?
Hmm.
Right. And so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which leads me to my next question to you. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced while working at a dealership?
I mean, I guess from what I've seen, and I guess what we also kind of discussed a couple points before, it's a lot of it is the waiting game. It's like following up. A lot of it is following up.
Yeah.
So we're kind of waiting. Where did this come from? Well, like why did we pay it this way and not this way? Where is this supposed to go? Like being able to find like track the breadcrumbs, right? To figure out like where it's supposed to actually go, where expenses are, where money even is. We're like, okay, we collected this money, but where's it supposed to go?
Yeah.
is is something that I find is I see the most. A lot of it is from an accounting perspective is just kind of like trying to account for everything. Like things just kind of float up to the top, which
Hmm.
is, I guess, sometimes I think, like accounting can figure it out, but like accounting sometimes wasn't there that day, so accounting doesn't know why
Hmm.
we spent this
Right.
or why we collected this money, right? And so like I think being able to like communicate with the other departments to kind of pass on information that is useful or that's important
Yeah.
for like accounting to kind of like follow up or like to proceed with their stuff, right? I mean, I think the challenges of like accounting has been like closing the books and everything used to take like a week, 2 weeks sometimes. Like some
Yeah.
dealerships I've heard like 2 weeks to close the previous month.
Hmm.
Right. And like, and I think a lot of it is because we're just kind of waiting to like, okay, we need answers, we'll wait. Right. But
Hmm.
like I find what's happening is that we need the answers faster and faster and quicker, so then like we can close and report like earnings and everything earlier than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And so like I think like the like being able to support the departments and like to kind of show them that it's not like we're asking because we just want to know. It's more like it's asking because we have to report. We have to kind of like pass on the information too to
Hmm.
operational managers and all that stuff. And so yeah, like that's like the biggest the kind of challenge I think from the accounting perspective of
Yeah.
the dealership level.
Yeah, yeah, because and every time the system changes, if they move from, say for instance, they move from ADP to a Reynolds on Reynolds or to an automate system, then accounting has to transfer all their accounting files and their journals and everything and update, and then they have to reconcile again, and it's
Yeah,
it's really tedious. Yeah. So a lot of people don't.
somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, so
It's
exactly.
usually
Someone's
us.
got to
It's
do.
usually us.
Yeah, I know you're absolutely correct. Someone has to do it.
Yeah.
Someone definitely has to do it. But in terms of the challenges you encountered, what were some of the strategies you used? Well, personally, from your standpoint.
Well, I mean, I found being which I mean it's the whole like work-life balance too, but like being available to the other departments, like being able to support the other departments, like
Mm.
if they have a question they don't know where it's supposed to go, to
Right.
call or email, or in the our we have like a group kind of chat thing
Yeah.
on all of our computers, like to just kind of like say, hey, where am I supposed to go with this, or what account do you want to
Hmm.
put this to, or what the vendor number customer number or vendor number that we're supposed to like charge this to, like being able to kind of like answer those questions kind of like live at, or not live, but like kind of like at the time, like when there's like a customer standing in front of the service advisor, or there's a body shop standing in front of the parts department, like being able to kind of like provide them that information at the time, I think really helps accounting, but then also helps the parts department like later down the line, because they already kind of know. We don't have to then at the end of the month, we don't have to like go back and be like, hey, do you remember at the beginning of the month you talked to this one body shop person, like what's their name, like like what's their address, because their address is like incorrect or there's a discrepancy there, that type of thing. So like I think being able to and also just kind of like communicating with them, like, oh, we need this because of this, or maybe setting up kind of procedures that will kind of help the other departments. Like I found helping them will help accounting. Like so like supporting the other departments will also support, like it helps accounting in the end. So like if we can kind of like maybe set up like accountant like little accounts that explain what it is, like this is for office supplies, right? Or like this is for like this kind of expense or that kind of expense, instead of just like a number, which doesn't mean anything to the other departments but mean a lot to accounting. I think kind of like adding in that extra programming to explain what it is will help the other departments, and then also ultimately help accounting kind of like account for everything, right? Instead of like having to kind of like ask, and then also relying on the other departments to provide those answers when we need it, but then when they need answers, there's like this delay kind of thing, right? Being able to see the whole picture, so the process from like car comes in or potential customer comes in to the showroom, what happens from when the customer comes in to when they do a turnover and like actually get like the deposit, right? Like for accounting, we just see, okay, there's deposit, licensing, that's it. Like like where's the funding? Okay, cool, it all adds up, perfect, close, like right? Like, but we don't see what happens from when the customer came in to the deposit, to they purchase extended warranty, to they want accessories, to then like delivery day for the cars. So like for like their first car, and you like accounting doesn't see all of that. We like know of it. But like,
well, only a few persons know of it, because you have that one individual who comes in, goes straight to their desk, turn their computer on, and then that's it. There's never been any awareness of what takes place around the back. So
I mean, I guess it's like it's true. Part of it is like it's like the want to know and like to be proactive. But I think it really, like I found it really helped like understand everything, like the whole picture. Because accounting, we see everything, but we don't actually see like all of the like all the individual steps that came to everything. Right. And so like we kind of see like an overview of like all the departments together, right? But I think being able to see into shadow all the separate departments helps like the accounting department kind of like speak like sales language and like speak service language and speak the parts language, so then like we also kind of understand each other. Right. But so like I really appreciated that. I liked having like, as from an accounting perspective, being able to go and like see like how that, like how that stuff happens, how the deposits come in and how they're recorded, what happens. Right. But then I think like being able to, like, for the other departments to see what accounting does, because sometimes they just see, well, I mean, we have this extra money, accounting can figure it out. Like they can figure out where to put it, right? And I'm just like, yes, but like but it's money allocated to your department, so you're like, you tell me where you want to keep this money. Right, like this extra money or that type of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I tangent a lot, I'm sorry.
I know. But now that we're moving into a ever-changing market, COVID has somewhat forced us to be a
Yep.
lot more innovative. I keep using that word, but I can't help but emphasize that we need to be very, very innovative. How should we be prepared for ever-changing market? Since now that I think we have gotten the experience from this. So what do we
Yeah,
do going forward?
I got COVID year two, which is kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Um, from accounting, it's yeah, I think from like just accounting perspective, it seems pretty just kind of similar. Like a lot of it is again, we're working in the past. We're trying to kind of like catch all of those things, but then also trying to see the trends. And now the trends we would be able to see is like 6 months down the line, but now it's almost like a month daily because
Yeah.
of like kind of COVID and everything.
Hmm. Yeah,
So like
you have less to work with.
you
No.
do, you really
Yeah.
do. So like I think that kind of like naturally creates a sense of like, okay, we need to like be able to like kind of like account for everything faster and like more like quickly because we can't see that far ahead anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think right now it's like very hard. I mean, I like it's yeah, like right now it's really hard to be able to see because no one has ever really experienced this kind of like everyone talks about like industry kind of like upset, like there's like that like kind of like that new innovation that kind of really forces everybody
Yeah.
to like take note and like adapt. But this is like something like COVID has kind of affected everyone across the board. So it's not just the sales department or like service department, it is like everybody. And it's not just the auto industry at the service level, dealership level. It's like corporate, like the corporate, like like brands, and it's everything. So I think being able to kind of like know where the dealership stands at any time or like a little bit earlier, maybe not even like at the end of the month anymore. It's like we kind of need to be able to see and make decisions or be able to like kind of report to the operating managers like on like in the middle of the month or like near the end of the month so then they
Mhm.
can make I guess decisions that
Yeah.
like drive the company, right? And so like yeah, like that's hard. It's hard. Right now it's like something we've never seen before. I've never seen before in all my time. I don't know where we will be, but I think it's just rolling with the punches and being adaptive. So like being open to like those new kind of like concepts that are coming out, being open to like new ways of communicating with customers, communicating with coworkers, and like kind of being transparent like with like the procedures
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Like that's like new that we kind of have to now because you can't just wait or you can't just like send an email and just kind of wait for them or like kind of right like you kind of almost have to help them too, like help them help you.
Right.
So yeah.
But have you worked with different systems in accounting? I mean, like for the
I mean,
dealer management systems I'm talking about, because
mhm,
in here in Canada, Reynolds and Reynolds is very popular,
mhm.
as with CDK. But have you ever worked with any of them?
I mean, I've been exposed to CDK. I've personally worked with just Reynolds, but then there's also like other accounting programs that are like
Right.
kind of outside of the auto industry because they're
Yeah.
like pretty specific to the auto industry, and
Yeah.
they do there are accounting elements for it, but like if you start kind of like having to implement like a separate payroll system.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes we do have third party payroll like systems or their programs
Right.
that you kind of have to adapt to, or you have to kind of communicate between this third party versus AD, like Reynolds, right? And so you kind of have to be able to integrate both of them. So
Hmm.
either like kind of like transferring the information from Reynolds to the third party and the third party to Reynolds.
Right.
And if they're not fully integrated, like you're able to kind of like upload and files, then that's when accounting comes in and manually has to enter affect all of the accounts and employee numbers and like all that stuff to kind of like make them kind of communicate.
Yeah.
So make the third party and Reynolds communicate.
Right.
So like
Right.
that happens a lot. Not all the time, but like it does, like there's like that facet of accounting that again like people don't really, other dealer departments don't really see all the time, is that like if we have a third party payroll, then and it doesn't speak and communicate with Reynolds, then it
Yeah.
is the accounting person who has to like, third party A is Reynolds B, and you have to kind of
Integrate
slowly
them. Yeah.
integrate them. Or if we have like a separate account, like accounting reporting system, so we yeah, it's like a third party one where like let's say the corporate, like the dealership group kind of
Mhm.
uses, when like a new dealership kind of comes in, they have to kind of communicate, even though we are on Reynolds, we have to be able to communicate on their system too.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of like now you have to kind of like, accounting one, like account 1A over here in Reynolds is not
Mhm.
1A, it's 110 in the
In the, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot of that. So like when the programs don't communicate, it's the accounting clerks that
Yeah.
have to kind of like be the bridge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
So
fun.
you see, so I've mentioned over and over on this program that
Mhm.
customers walk into a facility, they walk into a dealership, and you see all the bells and whistles, and
Yeah.
the ergonomics, and everything is immaculately done on the display and everything. And sometimes you look around and you said, who the hell is paying for this place? You get what I'm saying? But they don't understand that
Yeah.
the type of work that goes into maintaining the scenery and the comfort of how a customer should feel when they walk into a dealership.
Mhm.
And what we do, we totally discount the individuals who work in the dealerships as well. You go on certain programs and all you see is pretty cars and features and fast cars and the
Yeah.
maintenance of it, but never a program to take the time to appreciate the persons who work in the background, such as yourself, of
Yeah.
course, right? Doing
Yeah.
the paperwork, ensure that the wheels are constantly turning and the doors are opening and the light stays
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it's kind of like the swan effect where like, like above the water, they're like very graceful, everything looks so pretty. But under it's like a crazy like kind of under the
Exactly.
water, the legs are going like crazy. And I guess that's kind of a lot of the employees and like I mean accounting and everything too.
Yeah.
Like that's us. We're just like trying to keep the business running. And like that's why I kind of like really liked when I heard about your program, like about your podcast and everything, I was just like, oh, this is really interesting. You're like talking to like people, right, that are
Exactly.
there. And I can only speak for like my own personal experience, right? From like it's not all dealerships are the same. Everyone's a little different. Every
Yeah.
dealership's a little different.
Yeah,
Every
every
honest
dealership has their own
different,
culture,
but
and
yeah,
that culture is emulated by the leadership of that
yeah,
dealership
yeah.
itself, right? The leader of the dealership, either the owner or the managing director, they set the tone of the dealership
Hmm.
itself. So
Yeah.
a customer will walk in and they will immediately feel the experience of what that dealership is all about. If you walk in that dealership today and you say, for instance, John Brown is dealing with you today, and then next month you go
Hmm.
back for your service, and then Carrie Ann is dealing with you today, and then 3 months after you go
Yeah.
for another service, and then Rachel is dealing with you. You're like,
Yeah.
what the, where have all the people gone? So I mean,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is what it is. But the I'm always rooting for the parts department, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
but tell us a little bit more about your inventory control from experience working in parts when we're doing like stock taking, stock count. Well, what was
Oh
that like?
yeah. Well, again, I mean, I'm not like an actual manager in accounting, so I don't know all of the intricate stuff. But like from my perspective with from accounting, a lot of it is like, okay, so like parts has like these part like like this inventory that is coming in, they're allocating it, they're selling, and then what happens is like they're putting it into stock and then they're also selling it at the same time.
Right.
Some, right? But like from accounting, it's like, okay, but like we have to pay the vendor. So the manufacturer that we're buying the parts from, like accounting has to pay the bill at the end of the day. So it's
Yeah.
more of making sure that what we are about to pay reflects what like inventory that we have here and that we're potentially selling. Because
Mhm.
usually So like for inventory, which we recently just did, like accounting has to be on site just to make sure that like what accounting has, like, okay, these are the, like the number of brakes and tires that we saw that we're kind of allocating for. We're about to pay the vendor this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we actually had
Yeah.
here physically? And then is that what we're selling? If
Yeah.
we're selling them, where are they going to? Right? Like, is it reflecting like kind of like the the profits that we're getting and the net that we're kind of receiving at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is that, I mean, like, so communicating with the parts department and like just kind of making sure that the invoices that they have the the bills of lading,
Yeah.
where we receive those amounts, like that many tires, that many brakes
Yeah.
on this day, on this day, and like, does it reflect what we're about to pay, like those vendors, those tire hotel, like like the tire brands, or like the manufacturing kind of like OEM um brands and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
like it's fun. I mean, again, it's learning every day. Like sometimes, like if we say like accounting kind of like sees it this way, but then we don't see the physical inventory that's here. So maybe we might have received, let's say, 500 brakes
Yeah.
that week, but then some of them were defective, and so now we're returning them. So of
Yeah.
course, when we don't see, so that means we're not going to sell, like that many number of brakes in the future, but like we don't have that many brakes in inventory. So, but then when are we going to get like kind of like the rebate or the refund for those defective parts that we received and now we're sending back?
Right.
Right. And so like accounting, unless we know that there's something like that happening, we're just going to be like, why are we paying this like 500 brakes, but like, we don't have 500 brakes in inventory? Like, what
Yeah.
happened to them?
Yeah. Yeah. There
Right.
has to be reconciliation. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like it's a lot of like kind of that. It's a lot of kind of like we only see this, but then like this kind of comes down the line, and like when you're just looking at numbers and accounts all the time, you don't really see kind of like the effect or the impact of it, kind
Yeah.
of like from parts, let's say parts department or the accounting department. There's a lot of like trying to put the story together.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like investigating, trying to put those stories together to be like, oh, okay, this is why, like, even though the invoice says 500, we only have 450. Like, right? And like, maybe we sold them already, right? And maybe they're already been spoken for, or they're defective and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And you have to
yeah.
take in account the goods in transit as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Each manager is different. Like, they want it this way, they kind of understand it in this way. And so, or another way. Like one manager will kind of understand it like in Excel like this, and then another one will be like, this is too much for me. I kind of like want to see this. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's being able to kind of adapt to and support the other
Yeah.
departments that kind of way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Because I know some dealerships they have innovated so much that they allowed IT to come in and set up their systems that everything is done real time. So at
yeah.
at the closing of the month, once you hit that button, all the reports are closed off, the accounts are closed
Yeah,
off, and then all you do is just go back and reconcile. Usually
yeah,
between 3 days to a week, but
yeah,
we'll
yeah,
eventually get there. But
yeah. I
my
mean, we're tracking towards, I think, 4 days now at the dealership that we're at. We're tracking at 4 days.
4 days, yeah, four
Yeah.
days isn't bad.
Yeah.
Anything under a week is
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, in the past, a week or even 10 days, I think, even like 10 days was like, for the whole like full close,
yeah,
was already kind of pushing it. But now it's like 4 days, 3 days. I think I've heard they're trying to get down to one
one day,
day.
yeah.
Right. And so there's a lot of like compressing of
Hmm.
time, which means there's a lot of compressing of like computing and information, right? And I think that's being able to kind of like cut off the month, I think, is another thing that I guess kind of like the other departments kind of have to be able to close their own month,
Hmm.
so then accounting can like formally close
Yeah,
and reporting everything. So
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
it's a learning curve. Everyone's different, and with even like new employees coming in, they like, it's a constant kind of like stream of like training and adapting and like kind of like like yeah, like a lot of, it's a lot of training, cross training. It's a lot of like have like one being even being between like different dealerships or auto groups, things are done differently.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And so it's like a constant learning curve. You're on that curve. You're always on that curve.
Always on that curve. Yeah. Yeah, you never get off the curve. Never too
Yeah.
old to learn as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But my final question to you, with how should we prepare for a market that's constantly changing?
How do we prepare? I think it's to just be prepared for that change because it will
Yeah.
change. I think it's
Yes, it does. It does,
yeah, like
because of COVID now,
mhm.
it actually surprised a lot of people. And one of the
Yeah.
things I always try to encourage, like former colleagues in the past, is have a defensive mechanism in place at all times. Because once anything happens, either a natural disaster or an economic crash or something in the market, the auto industry is affected first
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
everything. But yeah, because
Yeah,
people
no,
stop
it's
buying
true.
cars, or people will keep their old car longer, or
Yeah.
the dealership, once because they're so sales centric, they
Mhm.
once the numbers fall off, then they're in a panic mode. So I
It
mean,
is a frenzy. It's a frenzy. It's a panic, and it's a panic, I think, across the industry. But I think the only thing to be prepared for, like because we can't see that far into the future, we can't see what's going to happen, like tomorrow.
yeah.
I think like the defense mechanism is just to be prepared that it will change, that there will
Mhm.
be a change,
Yeah.
and to be like to be prepared for to adapt, whatever it is, whatever adaptation that we're gonna have to do,
Mhm.
um, to just to because it will never stay the same. I think in the past there was like things have happened and like the auto industry has been slow, but like now it's true. Like with COVID in itself is really an illness, but it really affected the auto industry. And
Mhm.
I think in a way that I think no one's really thought of, no one
Right.
really saw before. And so I think learning from COVID and like the effects of it is I think being able to kind of be aware of other things happening in the world. So if it's a financial crisis, if it's like another health related thing, even though COVID is a health related thing, it affected the auto industry, right?
Mm.
Even though I guess in the past maybe they thought, well, it won't affect us because it's not, like we're not in the medical field or we're not in the thing. But like, yes, but like I mean, transporting medicine and everything like that. I mean, they run on cars,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Trucks and like
Yeah.
everything like that. And so, but I think it's just being aware and being kind of like informed of like kind of like the trends that are happening. So then we are ready, being open. Like I think being open to new ways of doing things. Like
Yeah.
we have to be able to try or at least be open to the idea of trying new things. I think like that really helps.
Well, Doris, thank you very much for joining me. It has been a pleasure. And I'm sure that we all learned a lot from your
Yeah,
experiences.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I hope so.
and
You did a lot.
I look forward to doing a second interview, because we need to go into maybe the intricacies of a little more of what you do, but no trade secrets, of course. But
Yeah. I mean, like again, like I think because of the way I kind of came into the industry, I kind of like ended up a little bit everywhere.
yeah,
Like right now I'm in accounting, but I mean, who knows?
who knows? Yeah,
Who
who
knows?
knows? Chief accountant, financial controller next. So who knows?
Maybe, who knows, right? Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see in another 7 years,
Well, of course, of course. I remember everyone. We all met you here first, so
Yeah.
don't forget the little
Yeah,
people.
yeah. I'll chat. I'll stop in and chat.
Okay. All right. Thank you again, Doris, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was exciting.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Remember to rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're leaving with a better understanding of the individuals who work in the auto industry. Until next time.